Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Compliance. I'm Ashley, the host of this podcast, and today we're talking about something that tends to make HR folks feel just a little uneasy, or at least it did for me until I really took the time to understand it and build this into my routine regularly. And so today we're talking about OSHA, all things OSHA. Not because it's hard, but because it's one of those things that you have to stay on top of all year round. And if you miss a step, that's usually when the panic starts to set in. We're talking about recording, posting, electronic submission, and reporting. We're going to be talking about what's required and what often gets missed, and then also how to make this part of your regular HR routine instead of a once-a-year scramble. Quick disclaimer before we dive in, this episode is for general information and education only. I'm sharing my insights based on my HR experience and my background in employment law education, but this is not legal advice. Every workplace is different, so for specific situations or specific state laws, it's always best to consult your own legal counsel. So, grab your coffee. This episode is all about staying compliant without overcomplicating things. Okay, so now let's talk coffee of the day. Today's coffee is just a black coffee. It's my favorite, the Texas Pecan Aggieland coffee from College Station, Texas. My fave. It's such a good black coffee. And I have it in my Honeydukes mug from Harry Potter Universal Studios. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. As you can see, my 3 shelves of just tons of Harry Potter memorabilia and Legos and things like that. But black coffee, splash of almond milk or 2 splashes, and then just a little bit of my collagen powder to help with my hair and my skin and my nails. And yeah, it is just a very warm, calming coffee for this morning, which it feels very appropriate for an episode when we're talking about doing the little things without stressing ourselves out, right? So make sure you grab your coffee, your tea, your matcha, or just whatever you're drinking on this morning, and let's jump into this week's episode. Okay, so let's start with the big picture, because this is where a lot of the confusion comes from. When people hear OSHA, they often think of inspections or citations, but most OSHA compliance actually happens quietly, behind the scenes, and through record keeping. If you ask me, there's really 4 main areas that every HR team should really keep in the front of their mind, and we're going to talk about those right now. Number 1, recording injuries and illnesses as they happen. So this is the foundation. If you don't log things consistently, all year round, starting from January 1st, everything else could fall apart. Number 2, posting the annual summary. And this is a big one. It's almost February 1st, so this is a really poppin' time for us HR professionals right now. But this part, it seems basic, but I see so many workplaces where the poster is invisible, or it's not updated, or even the remote employees can't even access that, because that's something that I didn't always think about until working in a job where there are remote employees. Number 3 is electronically submitting your data if your organization is required to. So some people assume posting the poster covers it all, but submission is actually a separate step, and missing it can get you into trouble. And number 4, reporting serious incidents quickly. And by quickly, I mean as soon as possible. Failing to report a hospitalization or a fatality right away is one of the biggest compliance mistakes there probably is regarding OSHA. So these are the 4, I think, the most important to get right. Honestly, they're also the ones that tend to trip people up the most. But it's not about memorizing the regulations word for word. It's having a clear and repeatable process so nothing falls through the cracks. Okay, so let's dive into those 4 topics that we just started talking about. So the first one, this is where the compliance really begins. OSHA requires that employers log any work-related injury or illness using Forms 300 and 301, or the electronic equivalent. That's what I use. It's just an Excel spreadsheet and it's super easy to use. You need to record these incidents within 7 calendar days of learning about them. And another point that's really, really important is you need to track everything that is recordable under OSHA rules, even injuries that seem really minor at first. I always tell managers, if it hurts enough for someone to say, ouch, log it, because you never know. What starts as a paper cut today could be a lawsuit tomorrow, or a very awkward conversation later. I remember, story time, I remember when I was in my first HR coordinator job, this was years ago, but probably within my first year of working there, I actually fell over a doggy gate, leaving my door because someone had brought their puppy, and then I got to bring my puppy while I worked there. It was great. But I fell over a doggy door and hurt my knee, and it wasn't terrible or anything, but my director was like, do we need to file an incident report? And I was like, no, but we don't do it because you're okay in that moment. We do it to protect you going down the road in case you need medical attention later, which we're going to get into here in a minute. But so that's just one example. And that's why I say, just log it. If you're even a little bit weary about, should I log this? Just go ahead and log it so you cover the employee and the employer. One of the biggest mistakes I see is letting recording pile up until the end of the year, and that can make your annual summary just a nightmare process. So instead, I recommend keeping a running log all year round. I've already set up 2026, at the end of last year for each of my locations just to make sure I'm ready to go when those incidents start happening. Hopefully they don't. But running log all year round. Another thing is training your managers to report incidents promptly so that they know their expectations with reporting incidents to you. And then reviewing the log regularly to make sure that nothing gets missed. So think of this as building a habit. If you record consistently, your year-end compliance tasks are far easier. Now, one last piece that is also really important. HR also need to log incidents with their workers' compensation provider. So OSHA record keeping is about federal compliance and the employee's rights. But workers' comp is about insurance coverage and protecting both the employee and the company. Think of it like this. OSHA is the scoreboard that shows what happened. And then the workers' comp is the insurance policy that makes sure someone can get care and it's covered if it gets worse. You need both. I highly recommend creating a workers' comp packet to keep on site at each of your locations that essentially walks the managers through the process and the steps to take once an incident occurs. And this workers' comp packet, you can also have a little part of it to give to your employees. So this is something that I'm actually currently working on right now for my team, and it takes some time, but it's highly worth it to make sure that everyone knows what to do. Some things I recommend adding to your workers' comp packet are as follows, and these are applicable to Texas, but I'm sure that they are applicable to most of the states in the U.S. Just make sure you tailor it to your state and your workforce. But the first thing is an employee's report of injury document. Second thing is the employee's claim form. Third, company incident report. That's really important. State and legal notices. There are state and legal notices that you're required to give your employees. Workers' comp information and medical forms, and then also my favorite is a list of urgent cares and providers that are close to your location that the employees can go to, and these locations are specifically covered under your workers' comp. So, like I said, these are just some of those things that you can add to your packet. I'm sure there's a lot more that you can either add or change and tailor it to your workforce and your state. But next up, we're talking about posting the annual summary. And like I said, February 1st is coming up very quickly, so listen close on this one. OSHA Form 300A is required from February 1st through April 30th to be posted in an employee visible area. Even if your workplace had 0 recordable incidents, it still has to be posted. So here are some quick compliance reminders with this. The summary must be signed by a company executive. It has to be visible and accessible to all employees. I recommend the break room or just somewhere where there's a lot of employees coming through to maybe clock in, grab lunch, that kind of thing. And then for remote employees, it should be posted electronically in a place where they actually know how to access. So your Google Drive, your Teams Drive, whatever is readily accessible to those remote employees. A lot of workplaces actually get this wrong by putting it somewhere official looking, but basically making it invisible, like behind a filing cabinet or in a manager-only office. Don't do that, but make it easy to see. And if someone can't find it, then OSHA will consider it non-compliant. And also a good rule of thumb for all the HR professionals out there, your HR teams, if you're not able to be on property to make sure that a good visible place is where the poster is at before the deadline, just require your manager to snap you a pic, just a couple of different angles from a couple of different distances, just before the deadline, and you'll be all good to go. Now let's talk electronic submission. So not all employers actually have to do this, but if you meet certain OSHA thresholds for your industry and your company size, you may need to submit Form 300A or even Forms 300 and 301 electronically through OSHA's injury tracking application. So here are some key points to keep in mind regarding electronic submission. So number one, deadlines are usually in early March, so keep that in mind. Number two is to verify each year whether your organization is actually required to submit. You may not have been required to last year, but a change in force size this year, you might be required to, so verify each year. And then the last one, assign one clear owner for submission. Don't just assume someone else will do it. And a reminder that submission does not replace posting. Both need to happen. And missing either can get you in trouble with OSHA, and we do not want that. Okay, so now let's talk about reporting serious incidents. This is going to be the last one. So OSHA requires that certain events be reported immediately. And this includes work-related fatalities, and that has a requirement of being reported within 8 hours. And then also inpatient hospitalizations, amputations, or the loss of an eye, and those have to be reported within 24 hours. And this is not a log it later situation. It's urgent. So make sure you have a clear process for identifying reportable events. And then also make sure you have a designated person responsible for making the report within your HR department. I'm an HR team of one, designated person right here. But a lot of other companies have bigger HR teams. And then the last thing, which is really important, is have an OSHA contact info ready to go. If you're not sure, go ahead and call them anyways. Think of it as calling 911. If it's serious, you need to act fast. So what is the easiest way to stay compliant? Make OSHA recording part of your HR routine. That means training managers on how and when to report incidents, reviewing the logs periodically throughout the year, adding posting and submission deadlines to your annual HR compliance calendar so you make sure you do not miss those deadlines, and then lastly, including OSHA posters and summaries in your onboarding for your new employees. When record keeping becomes routine, February 1st and the electronic submission deadlines, they stop being so stressful. Compliance becomes just another part of the workflow, and that's the goal. So, to recap, staying on top of OSHA isn't about memorizing every rule. It's about 4 different things that we've talked about: recording injuries and illnesses promptly, posting the annual summary correctly, submitting data electronically if required, and the last one, reporting serious incidents quickly. Do these consistently and you'll avoid most of the common pitfalls that HR teams run into. So, thank you for listening to Coffee and Compliance today. New episodes drop every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Central. Thank you for spending your morning with me, talking about OSHA and compliance and just all of the fun things, and of course coffee. So until next time, keep your coffee warm and your workplace compliant.